You thought Case 9 was disturbing? Some stories don't just haunt a city, they rewrite the rules of safety. And tonight, we open case number 8, July 14th, 1966, Chicago, Illinois. 12:15 a.m. Nursing student. Tammy Sacco strolled across a narrow alley to the house next door. She was hoping to borrow some bread for a midnight snack, something casual, something familiar. After all, these were her friends, women who shared shifts, late-night study sessions, and inside jokes. But no one answered the door. It was quiet, too quiet. She gave up and went home, not realizing she had just knocked on a house that by sunrise would become one of the most infamous crime scenes in American history. Inside that modest townhouse, 8 student nurses were about to die, victims of a drifter named Richard Speck. Speck wasn't a stranger to violence. Born in Illinois in 1941, he was the 7th of 8 children. After losing his father at age 6, he spiraled, raised by a deeply religious mother and a new stepfather who drank, beat him, and introduced him to crime. By 12, he was already drinking. By 13, arrested. By 15, he dropped out of school and fell hard into a life of violence, theft, and drugs. Marriage and fatherhood didn't stop him. Neither did prison. 40-plus arrests later, Richard Speck was no longer just troubled. He was dangerous. And now, he was in Chicago. After a failed job on a merchant ship, Speck drank heavily and assaulted a 53-year-old woman, stealing her pistol. Then, on July 13th, he wandered the streets of Chicago's South Side looking for a target. What he found was 2319 East 100th Street, a townhouse for senior nursing students from South Chicago Community Hospital. It was late, the back door was unlocked, and inside were 8 women. The residents were a mix of American and Filipino nurses, sharing a tight, peaceful home during their final year of training. That night, most of them were already in bed, exhausted from their hospital shifts. Speck knocked on the bedroom door of Corazon Amurao and Melita Gargulo. Corazon answered and met a tall, thin man with a gun. He forced her and the others into one room. He told them he just wanted money. But what Speck really wanted was power. He tied them up with torn bedsheets, counted them, recounted them, and then waited. As more nurses came home from shifts, he pulled them in too. Suzanne, Mary Ann, Gloria. Each one tied, silenced, controlled, and then, one by one, he took them away. He whispered lies, told them they'd be fine, then raped them, strangled them, stabbed them, washed his hands, and returned for the next. 5 hours passed, but hidden under a bed was a survivor. Corazon Amurao, just 23 years old, had managed to slip under the bunk. She held her breath, stayed still, prayed he wouldn't notice, and somehow he didn't. He lost count. At 6 a.m., Corazon crawled out. The house was silent. Blood was everywhere. She knocked out a window screen, leaned out the second story, and screamed, "They're all dead!" She gave police a hauntingly clear description of the man, including one detail that would seal his fate: a tattoo on his arm that read, "Born to raise hell." 2 days later, a hospital doctor treating a failed suicide attempt recognized the tattoo. The patient was Richard Speck, and when Corazon saw him lying in that hospital bed, she pointed and said, "That's him." Speck was arrested and charged with 8 counts of murder. At trial, Corazon testified bravely. She described the horror with calm precision. Doctors feared she'd break, but she never wavered. It took the jury just 49 minutes to convict Speck. He was sentenced to death, but like so many others, that sentence didn't last. In 1972, after a Supreme Court ruling, his sentence was commuted to 8 life terms. He spent the rest of his life in prison, but even there, his evil found new ways to fester. In 1996, a leaked prison video revealed Speck in a cell, high on drugs, engaging in sexual acts with other inmates, laughing and boasting about the murders. "If they knew how much fun I was having," he said, "they'd turn me loose." He died in 1991 from a heart attack, but the tape would shock the world years later. And what of Corazon Amurao? She survived that night, left the spotlight, and returned to nursing. She rarely speaks of what happened, but her life stands as a tribute to strength, to memory, and to 8 women whose dreams were stolen in the dark. Richard Speck didn't just take lives. He robbed a city of its innocence and proved that monsters don't always hide in shadows. Sometimes they knock at your door. Next week, we open case number 7. If you found this disturbing, consider subscribing. Turn on notifications, because the Dark Files doesn't just revisit what happened, it reveals why we can never forget it. Stay curious, stay safe, and remember, some doors should never be opened.